everyone, it's Jen.
And Ali.
And you're listening to Rising Within Podcast,
a show where we come together to connect the heart, head, and spirit.
Just like rhythm, lyrics, and melody. Let's start this episode because I'm excited to talk about this stuff.
This is the one about our soul contracts.
Yes. My guides put this girl Taylor on my radar through TikTok a couple of times, and I followed the breadcrumb and I got the go ahead to purchase her soul contract. And as a result of getting my results, I was like, when I find something that I think is amazing, I share. And I was like, Allison, check this out. You need to look into this. It basically is it feels like a novel, but it's 59 pages of all of our karma, all of the things, all the reasons basically why we're here, our gifts, our blockages, basically things that we already kind of know about ourselves, but it gives you sort of a reason as to why it's unfolding that way and why we've reincarnated in order for us to work through this and learn through our lessons and our like imprint, if you will.
Just have to say too, I want to add to that, I really love the way that she's packaged this as well, because there's a nice introduction if you choose to purchase this for yourself, which is a great investment, amazing investment.
Yes.
There's a nice little introduction that explains sort of the system or the components that have come together for her to develop this soul contract channeled experience for the end user. And it does give some sources of where the schools of thought have come from. And it does mention some literature, some other places to look and understanding this package. And what I've noticed most is that there's a lot of use of other tools within the spiritual realm. So there's some use of numerology in this. There's some use of astrology within this. There's quite a bit of mediumship and channeling involved, which like I just love to pieces.
Yes. It's like a blend of our two like forces coming together, and we're like, this is our child. This is our like baby.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to check her out on TikTok at Channeling Akasha, and we'll have some links and info for her in our show notes as well for you to check out. If this is something that through hearing our personal experiences and journey with our soul contracts, if this is something that totally interests you, then you'll be able to connect with her in a more profound way and perhaps learn about your purpose and karma and all the juicy details.
Love it. Beautifully said. So I thought we would go through it and kind of compare our notes, if you will, back and forth, because I think that's really interesting. But I want to start with what your primary light worker role is.
Oh God, we're gonna start with like the steak of the steak dinner, huh?
Sorry, go for the jugular.
I just know this whole conversation, your energy is going to be eye rolling towards my energy. Like, well, of course, Allison. Like, how did you not know or see this about yourself? So, my primary role as a light worker is the divine blueprint holder.
Wow.
I am meant to assist others in aligning them with their own purpose, path, and destiny.
Well, duh.
And I know I was reading my contracts like, oh my God, the whole story of our friendships in here, like everything. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Because I met Allison as like a client and a mentor. And I never felt more seen and heard through the way that she talked to me. And I was like, oh my goodness. And, you know, the level-headedness between both worlds and everything that you bring to the table. I was just like, if I find someone that was so amazing, I share it. I've been sharing Allison with so many people who have also said across the board, like,
oh gosh, thank you.
Incredible.
My light work role is actually the exact same as Taylor, who crafts these.
That is really cool. Can you guess which one mine is?
I would imagine like...
It's pretty simple, actually. Nothing crazy though.
No, but I always see you as like a pioneer or inventor or like discoverer of things, or like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh God, I want to know.
Primary light worker role that I signed up for was the healer.
Oh, of course. Every word that comes out of your mouth is so healing in nature.
This is what's so interesting for me, because obviously Allison and I have separately dissected ours. And we also have a like rapport, a shorthand, and a friendship within our like podcast and also aside from that. And so it's really cool for us to like, you know, hear it from each other, because I'm like, what other possibilities are there for light workers? And I hear yours and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So that's really cool. And why don't we start? Because I like the way she actually organizes it for some reason. We'll start with like physical karma, which is basically, she says, the karmic lessons brought through your interactions with your reality, relationships, and experiences. And so she gives a vibrational number. For instance, mine is 17, which is the number of speech and emphasis. The karmic lesson will appear in your life as oppression.
Do you remember way back when I told you just start writing and don't stop?
Yeah. Guys, writing was real hard for me at the beginning, like so hard. So that makes a lot of sense. And that number, she gives a sort of a synopsis of it being like, it can be shown through dominance, like if my experiences of control, it can be through family, relationships, or positions at work. So for me, that more came through my own work prison stuff. So this is also where sort of victim mentality can come from. My guides will put sharks on my path, like not like literally, but like through like media or whatever, or they'll put on shuffle the Jaws song, The Victim, which is like, it doesn't get more poignant than that, to really make sure that I step out of victim mentality.
Your guides can be savage sometimes.
Oh yeah, they'll put that Jaws song on and they'll be like, when I'm crying, and they'll like, that's their way of being like,
get over it, girl.
Get over this victim mentality. Yeah. And then self-expression, which is back to what you were saying about the writing, right? Like holding my tongue for the sake of peace instead of speaking out about what's on my mind. The amount of times I've listened to people and had like a complete opposite opinion, but just didn't want to engage.
Oh, that's so true about you. You remove yourself from it.
Yeah.
If there's any sense of resistance to what you may be expressing through your own lens and perspective, it's almost like, I hate to say it, but this is me channeling at this point. It's almost like you feel a wrongness about presenting a polarized viewpoint.
100%.
And there's a desire to not rock the boat. And there's a desire to not perhaps even possibly damage relationships. There's a fear of damaging relationships with people as a result of you standing in the truth of your own thoughts, values, morals, etc., etc. I did not know this about you.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised.
It's still a little bit there. There is you exactly what you just said. It's about damaging the relationship. Or it's also for me about the energy in which it takes to have that conversation where I know that maybe they're not going to see eye to eye always. And it's just like, it's not like we're trying to sway each other in our own opinion.
It ultimately comes from a space of love. Like this entire time that you've been speaking about one of your karmic lessons being expression, immediately just your entire heart chakra lit up for me. And I receive validation as to why you're seeking out heart chakra work so much. Is because you want to align what's in your heart to what comes out of your mouth.
I have a lot to say, but I can easily slip into just listening.
Huh.
Yeah.
But I also think that that is a wonderful part of who you are, is that no one listens like Jen listens. That's how I feel. No one listens. No one holds space like Jen does.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Because some people listen and they don't hear a damn thing. Right?
I want to get you. I want to get
you listen and you hear more than what's said almost always. And that's part of what I've experienced personally as your friend, which I feel so blessed to have your friendship in my life. What I've experienced as your friend is that is part of your power as an intuitive channeler, as a medium, is that when you're in your zone, when you're sitting, listening, and holding space for someone, that hearing of the words that aren't said comes from a very visceral, intuitive space for you. And it's very heart-centered.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, girl, you already showed the world I'm divine blueprint holder. So I just kind of like, I gotta spit these rhymes.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So now I'm curious. I'm going to throw the tennis ball onto your court. What's one of the numbers for you?
Okay, so my karmic lessons are aligned with the numbers 21 and 3. And a lot of the numbers in my soul contracts are double numbers that are then further reduced. I have an awful lot of those in my charts. 21 is actually the number of the mother. Yeah, I don't even need to say anymore, right? As soon as I said that and paired that with karmic lesson, you're just like, yeah, okay, we're showing up to this one. My karmic lessons are meant to promote my ability to use my intellect, to possess strength within myself, to become more durable, to outlast, to overcome obstacles, and to grow. So my lessons are meant to hone and finesse. And I very much get a vibe of how you make a diamond, essentially, out of what my karmic lessons are. Like, I'm meant to be under pressure.
Wow. Do you feel you do perform out really well under pressure? Like you.
I do. I love, and part of me, and this is almost masochistic in nature, right? But part of me loves being under that pressure because I definitely feel I see myself through the most authentic lens and truthfully. When I'm almost forced or pushed or encouraged to rise to meet challenges is when I feel like I know myself best. I'm also like, a lot of other things came into my karmic lessons. Fear of failure.
Yep.
Huge for me.
Failure with what though? Just with
all of the things. and then in my karmic is, you have a way where you can retract your own auric field to the point of becoming invisible to people. And I'm like, yeah, I like, that's one of my greatest strengths.
You're like, that's my superpower. Thank you so much for validating that. I needed that.
Also, my relationship with money comes up in my karmic.
Okay.
And I'm just like,
this is all physical, right? Still, this is where in still.
This is all physical, yeah. Okay. And then overcoming childhood wounds is in my karmic too, and that is a huge one for me. And that's where I feel like the mother number comes from. Is that I have felt like a mother since like the age of 8 or even younger. Like, I have taken on the parent role in my family dynamic for sibling and for parent since a very young age.
So those all bleed into each other because it's like you've had to mother yourself and then mother others, and then it like brought you even more into other people that come into your path that are like graced with your presence and your energetic abilities to see someone, you know? And
so really, my karmic lesson is perhaps to not mother.
Like, this is a default. Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, to add the astrology flair into that, like, obviously Cancer, that is a nurturing sign, but the Cancer's karma also is to like learn how to mother themselves as much as they're able to mother others, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And that came through at every point of this contract. There's multiple opportunities for learning ways and techniques to work through some of this stuff. And there's a lot of suggestions presented. So self-care absolutely came up huge for me in terms of what you just mentioned, mothering myself.
Yes, that's actually a really good point, Allison, that mentioned, because we're just going to, for the duration of the podcast, talk about it in sort of bullet point. But Taylor, again, has done it in such a way where she's not just giving you the information, she's also telling you how to work through it. So it's not just information for you to go out and look for. Like, she gives you ways in which you can go through it. So it's very, very, very helpful.
And leverage the potential of.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the first quotes in it is evolve or remain. And that is so, right? That's a choice we have every day. I realized I didn't mention my second number, and the second of my physical is 8. So 8, it's all about being very grounded. I remember you were talking about when you scanned my chakras and you were talking about the root, like this is where this all comes from. It's like physical karma of 8 holds the most powerful earth vibration available.
Yes.
It binds you here, and this vibration is associated with grounding force. So the energy relates to connection both with people and with the forces around you. So it talks about like the strong connections to animals, which is where my guides give me a lot of messages through them. My karma is revealed through attachment. I have had hard times moving on from like things. I remember things, as Taylor Swift would say, all too well. All too well. And then over involvement in other people's problems.
Oh dear. Oh no. So I need to stop parenting people, and you need to stop like trying to fix.
Like, so it has a tendency to want to save people or fix
Mhm.
their problems for them. And Allison, I remember, if you remember years ago, I was talking to you about a particular person at that time. And it was a guy who also liked to save people. But the problem, you said, is that you're like, you need your own horse, Jen, and your own sword. And it's like, you're like, I don't want to ride on your horse with you. I want my own horse.
Yeah, he came across as very savior and very much wanting to recognize within you your damsel in distress. And it's like, well, no, she's Joan of Arc on her own horse. Thank you very much. Like, I don't know which damsel you think you're interacting with.
But that was like his power, right? And I had a power too, because I've like also learned about like, you can toss someone a life jacket. You don't need to dive in to save them.
And you can toss the life jacket while not even looking in that direction. That's how disengaged you can be. But you especially need to know this as a healer. Okay. Now that I know what your divine blueprint is,
okay,
the worst mistake you could have made is told me and confirmed for me I'm a healer. Well, that's locked in now. So as a healer, you will be like Girl Guide. You will always have a Batman utility belt of life jackets and life rafts, right? But girl, I'm telling you, you don't even need to look in the direction of where you're throwing these life jackets. Like that's how separate you can make yourself from their healing journey.
The last one really quick. No, this one's a tough one. This one's a really hard one for me. There's projections of the ideal relationship that I desire, can cause me to compare. It says every tiny detail to my standard, which I have high standards. I know this is, and this causes me to distance myself in relationships as soon as I see an instance that doesn't meet maybe my expectation.
It's probably as heavy hitting as my childhood wounds one, where it's like, oh great, like my biggest karma is my trauma that I've experienced in my life.
Yeah,
wonderful. And some of these points and some of these kernels is what creates such a strange experience in reading your book of you through reading your contracts, because it's not necessarily the positives for me that were like, whoa.
The ones that are, you're right, that's the best way to put it. The hard-hitting ones are the ones where it's like, whoa, you know my darkest secrets that I cry about, that I've literally come here to figure out.
Or that we our basic, like our shadow work, essentially. It shows us immediately our shadow work that we seek to hide. But in effect, through hiding from ourselves, we're trying to hide it from the world.
Right.
And we don't want anybody to know these things. So then the next section is about karmic lessons. So we start karmic lessons having to do with our outer reality, relationships and experiences. And then she actually distills it even further into our karmic lessons related within ourselves, how we process feelings and emotions. And for mine, it was a 10-1. So again, a double number and a single number. And a lot of my karmic lessons within self have to do with judgment and disbelief. But this has a lot to do with me questioning even in the existence of a higher power, which probably a lot of people would find interesting given what I do for a living, that I am a psychic medium. But when you've been through trauma in your life, there is just that seed, that kernel of question of like, well, if higher power existed, how could higher power allow harm, hurt, pain, and suffering to come to another person? I also deal with issues of rejection, disconnection, abandonment, and abuse. I may worry over what others think of me or what I'm putting forward and how I may be perceived. And I think that relates and correlates very much with the hiding in a shell version of myself and how I can so easily self-isolate as well. And also constantly judging and self-assessing, like on steroids.
So the higher self, that's really interesting.
Well, why am I here? What is my purpose? I remember always thinking and wondering, which had me seek out spirituality and understanding it a little bit more. Why do people have to suffer? Why do people need to be disenfranchised? Why do people need to go without? Why are some people granted privilege on some levels and others aren't? Like, these were things that consumed me at a young age.
So that's probably why you sort of went upon this trajectory in some ways, because of like this curiosity that you were like developed as a kid about wanting to understand things beyond just this like mundane world, because you were like
Mhm.
questioning things, and as a result developed all these gifts and things to
Right. The answer for me eventually was, well, there has to be more than this.
yeah, wow, that almost probably was your button to help you carve this path to some extent.
Yeah, I think so. I think very much so.
For my spiritual karma, which is 4-4. It's a double number. So it means it's going to appear multiple times. The key lesson is to learn to trust the flow of life, surrender, control, to find your inner sense of security, which is a huge thing for me, security. I go through every 6 to 8 months where I'm like trying to redefine or figure out my security.
Mm-hmm.
So the karma is activated through the imbalance of the divine feminine energies that I hold within.
It
Hello.
says that?
Yes.
Oh,
So,
oh.
guys, like a broken record over here. How many times have I mentioned on this podcast passionately about masculine and feminine energy?
Yes.
So that is a huge part of it. So it says the core program this karma operates from is feeling of not being worthy of love or and abundance. So it's pushing me to bring my divine feminine into balance by establishing my own inner sense of security and allowing myself to open myself up to give and receive unconditional love. So the karma reveals itself through cycles of abundance. So money comes, it goes. There's an imbalance between my heart chakra. So symptoms of isolation, trust issues, upper back pain, and to bring into balance, she also gives suggestions like if anyone's curious, like eating colors of things with the chakras also help with the vibration within your body. So she talks about a lot of green stuff.
This is why I bought a bag of carrots the other day. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, even wearing colors of that. So green, like lots of green stuff to help with that. The purpose of this karma of this imbalance between my feminine energy and is to allow to develop the ability to love unconditionally and to experience internal revolution. She suggests like going through counseling and healing. I really need unconditional love in order for me to grow and heal, and going with the flow as much as possible, and also needing a very much a spiritual practice. This part is where I laughed and I wrote Allison before this recording, because it was literally like, you don't know me. The trauma blocks are like of this imbalance is like the excessive use of social media compulsive. And guys, I'm the worst at like scrolling aimlessly. I know we all are, but like oof. And then mindless eating, I used to do that all the time, or compulsive exercising, which back to our first episode, you can't put like a band-aid on a bullet hole. You got to start writing, Jen, and not just working out. Feeling of being uncomfortable, of doing nothing. Like there's a sense of like uncomfortable when I'm not doing something or contributing something.
Because there's lack of purpose or focus or a goal. You're very goal oriented.
Yeah. And hyper focusing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just said you're so goal oriented, and then yeah, validated.
These are my blocks of my divine feminine, because it's like doing nothing. I'm getting better at it. It's still a stretch. I'll say that much, because that's receiving, right? Trusting, all of that stuff. So no wonder I'm almost militant about it, because I struggle with it, right? So it's something
Yes.
I had to learn more about because of my own inner workings.
Yes. One thing I forgot to mention about mine being a 10-1 for my spiritual karma is actually connected to Archangel Michael. I really identified with the sense of work and purpose and drive.
I'm not even surprised in the slightest, Allison, that you're connected to Archangel Michael, because for those who don't know, Michael is the one that's like the most powerful in the sense that he helps everyone, all the really important people that are here on this plane of existence. You know, right? Like he's the one you call into, like lawyers, like people, doctors, like people that are like doing things. I'm just using them as, you know, an example, but have a role that's like contributing to something bigger than themselves. That's who Michael works alongside. So like based on your light worker imprint, he's your ride or die, you know?
He is my ride or die. And the reason I struggle to even get the words out is because I'm out of alignment with that. I'm out of balance with that. And I know that about myself. And that's the other cool thing and takeaway from reading this and being so steeped in it, is that you can almost immediately identify, that's out of balance. Oh, I did great work on that. And you can see where there are areas of improvement, but you can see where you've achieved as well. So definitely my connection with Archangel Michael is something that needs work.
That's a really good awareness piece, Allison. I like that. Okay, well, now that we talked about our bullet holes, we saved the best for last.
Let's talk about our superpowers.
Let's talk about our superpowers. Allison, would you like to take it away?
So I'll start with physical gifts. My physical gift is a 5 and a 5. So a double number, just like your 4-4, where it's like, this will be encountered a lot. And this is very much bold _ LED flashing lights. My physical gifts are actually also in alignment with Mercury and Aries, possessing a winner mentality, optimism, a great desire for freedom and adventure, fully embodying and embracing characteristics known to Aries. So being courageous and assertive, confident, direct, passionate about things. I have an ability to get along with everyone. I'm very eloquent, apparently. I'm very eloquent and fluid in my communication styles.
Yeah. You're kidding?
I see everyone as equals. I look beyond the surface of things. I could have just as profound and deep and meaningful conversation with someone who's homeless as I could with someone who's Fortune 500 CEO of a company or corporation.
You don't discriminate. You don't discriminate.
No, I don't.
No.
Well, because there's beauty in all people. There's beauty in all souls.
Listen, Allison,
there absolutely is.
Not everyone sees that, and that is truly your gift. And that's why your people come to you, because you can see people, you know, and help them with their gifts and stuff too. Because you also see everyone as equal, you know, like it's
no one is no better than anyone else. Like we all have our shit, but we also all have our, you know, sparkling diamond qualities to ourselves. Yes. There's just so much to learn and to find interest within and to be inspired by the people that surround us in life, no matter their walk of life. So also writing and speaking is my creative force. I possess enhanced intuition and words just flow through me.
Okay. So I like when I edit sometimes the podcast, I am like, don't have to edit Allison because she's so fluent in the way that it comes out of her, and the words and the metaphors that you use. You are eloquent, you are well spoken, your communicating skills are off the charts, and your intuition, like this is wham bam, thank you ma'am, like this is so on point for you.
I was a bit bowled over by this.
Good.
Yes.
Because this is so obvious to me, and I'm so glad that you got to absorb something to really, really sit and marinate in not only like the things that we have that we need to, you know, shadow work, etc., but the things that make you amazing. Because I will call back to an older episode where I was like, what do you think your gifts are? And you're like,
well, my mother number. That's what my gift is. No, that's my karma.
Yes.
That's my karma.
Yes.
And my lesson.
Thank you, Allison.
Yes. My greatest gift
my greatest gift is giving. And I was like, that is not your greatest gift, but that is something you contribute to society.
My greatest gift is articulating that which cannot be articulated.
This is a round of applause.
I want to know your physical gifts, girl. I want to know.
We have a pattern here. It's also a double number, and it so happens to be 8. Again, imaginative, takes responsibility, tough but protective, progressive, long-lasting changes. I'm working towards helping others and changing the world in an impactful way. Connection with nature is huge. To naturally resonate with exact frequency of Mother Earth, feeling the movement of elements, connecting directly to beauty of life itself, and to share my voice.
Well, and I now have a question for you, because healer is your divine. Do you do as much active healing work in nature and with animals as you do with people? When you act as a healer, do you act as a healer in equal measure to nature and animals and the earth as you do with people?
That's a good question.
That's where my divine blueprint was leading me. I'm just going to leave you with that question. There's no need for an answer now.
No, this is good because, Allison, that's why I started Reiki, because
And that's where they were leading me. They were already saying in my head, she needs to be doing more Reiki sharing with nature, giving and receiving.
I would get videos of the earth from space and some videos of people talking about what's happening in Gaia. I want to contribute somehow or help. And I know that's been put on my radar a couple of times. They'll send me like a bird's eye view of Earth. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you for that prompt.
I'm so excited about spiritual gifts. I'm so excited for getting into this one.
Then you start us off.
Okay, so my spiritual gifts is a 16-7.
Okay.
And I'm so not surprised with the number 7 because the number 7 is my number.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was first trying to connect with my natal chart, I actually contacted the hospital that I was born at to get my exact time of birth. And what I discovered when I received that letter years and years and years ago, pre becoming a psychic medium, is that I was born on the 17th day of the 7th month at 7:07 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
And seven is seen as a highly intuitive spiritual number. Yeah, see, you're even physically doing the eye rolling now.
Because like I almost don't feel like highly intuitive even really quantifies what you are able to do. Do you know what I mean?
I will quantify it for you. My gifts are meant to be revealed through authenticity. I come across as relatable and I easily attract people as a result of that. I have an ability to ground spiritual energies into the earth plane in an accessible and universally accepted way. I possess enhanced intuition, but I can't allow fear to overpower my intuition. And this goes back to my karmic and everything I mentioned earlier about my fear of failure and my childhood wounds, and any fear possess and that I'm holding on to that I'm not working through is what directly affects my spiritual connection and my intuitive ability. And so busting through that opens everything just so much more widely. Ability to tap into universal consciousness and leverage the past to help shape the future. I'm very demonstrative in communicating. She may be these things, but she does not like the spotlight.
Different types of leaderships, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you're leading it through your voice. And I mean, what one hell of a voice you have.
Essentially, I just need to connect. If I'm not connecting with others in any way, I'm not living my purpose.
That makes huge sense. So like, I think what the universe is sort of presenting to you is like to reach out and connect with people when you're not doing so well too is just as important as it is for you to like be that a stoic person in someone's life, you know, with the words of wisdom that someone needs to hear at the right time, right place.
I'm working on that. Now you go on, healer.
Spiritual gifts is I have 2 numbers, like Allison. Mine is 12 and 3. So we'll start with 12. It's a mature soul that people that hold this number keep their circle small. So usually only spend time with people who have depth. Like I spend my time with people that I feel I can talk about this stuff with because it is such a big part of who I am. It's not, you know, all of it, but it is a big part. And if you're able to at least not like judge or try to nitpick it and bring it down, if that's the energy that's being given, I know it's not about me, but you won't see me as much. I think a really good assessment is like after a interaction with someone, like how checking in with yourself and how you feel. And like I really like talking about deep stuff and having conversations. Often my family would always say like, Jen, not everyone goes that deep. Not everybody thinks about the stuff that you think about or whatnot. I really love talking about that stuff. So it helps me explore different possibilities. It's so infused in my DNA. It's also associated with like the World card.
Ooh.
That's like my major arcana card. It's like a significant completion, fulfillment, ultimate success, I suppose, all of which have the ability to achieve in this life. However, fulfillment and success can't happen without first going through and learning the process. And then it says you may experience like hardships, tests, and trials in life, but know that there is a greater reason for each of these. And that's always my driving point, and that's what keeps me going. And then the ability to see beauty, which is, you know, something we talk about that's woven in here, even in the lowest vibrations. And back to Allison and I talking, I think, at a previous episode, where it's like, even in my worst moments, I still can understand why people do what they do. And it's not that I excuse the behavior, but it actually gives me more peace to some extent, because I understanding that they're at where they're at, and that's just where they're at. So like saying that I can see past the facade and understand what is under the surface. And I'm able to look at things and people with no judgment. And that's actually something I've heard.
This is why you're a great healer. And this is why I said earlier, way back when we started this episode, I said, no one holds space like Jen does. Everything you're saying is exactly why I see that and I feel that way. And I'm sure many others do too.
Yeah, because it says it's almost as if I don't even see appearances. I just see the soul.
This is why we're kindred souls. We're kindred spirits, is that we both just see the soul.
Just see the soul. No, so this is number 3. Shock me, shock me, shock me. So part of my spiritual gift is sexual energy.
I need a second with that one because
well, I will say this actually, now that I've gone through a lot more, accessing more of my spiritual abilities and also just like really tapping into it more, I am very fascinated by like manifesting through our sexuality, through exploration. I really am an advocate for women really knowing their spots and their pleasures within their body. So this has been activated recently. So this, or how I'm sort of digesting it, but I thought it was kind of interesting to me that it was part of my spiritual gift.
Do you ever dive into sexual aspects of people's charts? Sorry, they're just channeling. They were immediately showing me one of your next offerings or projects being just reading someone's chart about sexual energy.
I feel like I haven't fully accessed this gift yet. Recently been like really interested in learning more about tantra. I've also been really interested in like having a partner where we could really explore this in such a way where it's
not just mechanical but spiritual.
No, yes. It's funny you should say this because I had a first astrologer and I asked every astrologer after this before I became one, where he looked at my chart and he was like, he nailed this like sexual energy right out the gate. And every other astrologer, I was like, where did he see this? Because I couldn't see it. It made me realize that sex is beyond just the actual body.
This is also why I could see you as being so strong within your entrepreneurial energy, is that if the core of your spirituality is in the cradle of birthing and in the womb of birthing,
okay,
how could you ever work for somebody else within their creator womb cradle space?
Oh, that's
you would almost always have to work within your own. You are someone that needs to live within that cradle, within that womb space, not just in your career, but in your personal life. And if you're not living as close in an association with your joy and bliss and your own euphoric state,
right,
then you perhaps feel like you're not living at all.